The year is 1889, Detroit, Michigan. A failed furniture salesman named Hamilton Carhartt sits down with a railroad worker and asks one question: what do you actually need? He starts his answer with 2 sewing machines and 5 employees. 130 years later, Carhartt generates over $1 billion in annual revenue. The brand sells to construction workers, rap legends, and fashion houses on 3 continents. It started with a single overall. Hamilton Brakeman Carhartt was born on August 27, 1855, in Macedon Locks, New York. He grew up in Jackson, Michigan. His family did not build businesses. His father, Dr. George Carhartt, was a physician and surgeon. The family produced lawyers, doctors, and academics. Hamilton was the exception. In 1882, he left school and went into business with his father-in-law, Stephen Alling Welling, running a gentleman's furnishing wholesale operation in Grand Rapids, Michigan. 2 years later, in 1884, the family moved to Detroit. The business followed. It was renamed Hamilton Carhartt Company. The furnishing business ran. It did not thrive. Hamilton spent his spare time talking to the men who built and maintained Detroit's railroad lines. What he heard was the same complaint, repeated by every worker he met. The clothing available to them fell apart on the job. Seams split, buttons rusted, fabric tore within weeks. In 1889, Hamilton converted Hamilton Carhartt and Company from a furnishing wholesaler into a workwear manufacturer. The first products were bib overalls made from duck, a heavyweight, tightly woven cotton, and denim. The target customer was the American railroad worker. The slogan was 4 words: honest value for an honest dollar. Detroit, 1889. Hamilton Carhartt and Company begins operations inside a rented loft. The equipment is 2 sewing machines and a half-horsepower electric motor. The staff is 5 people. The first product is a bib overall built from 2 materials: duck fabric, a heavyweight, 100% cotton weave, similar to canvas, and denim. Both are chosen for one reason: durability. The seams are triple stitched, the buttons are rust-proof. Every construction decision answers the same question: will this hold up on a railroad? Hamilton does not wait for customers to find him. He travels the country personally, visiting railroad divisions from city to city, selling directly to the workers who need the product. The approach works. Within a few years, Carhartt overalls become the standard uniform across American railroad lines. By the turn of the century, the year 1900, Carhartt is producing over 200,000 pairs of overalls every single year. That number is not a coincidence. It is the result of Hamilton's market research method, which was direct and blunt. He asked workers what they needed, then built exactly that. No focus groups, no intermediaries. Hamilton Carhartt walked up to the men doing the hardest jobs in America and listened. The growth forces a decision. The company needs a new name to reflect what it has become. In 1905, the company is reincorporated as Hamilton Carhartt Manufacturer, Inc. 5 years later, in 1910, it changes again, this time to Hamilton Carhartt Cotton Mills. The new name is deliberate. Carhartt is no longer just a clothing manufacturer. It now owns the means of producing its own raw materials, controlling quality from the cotton field to the finished garment. By 1910, the scale of the operation is significant. Carhartt has 2 cotton mills, one in South Carolina and one in Georgia. It has sewing facilities in Atlanta, Detroit, Dallas, and San Francisco. It has crossed international borders, with plants operating in Walkerville in Ontario, in Toronto, in Vancouver, and in Liverpool in England. A facility in Paris follows. So does a warehouse and office in New York City. The first logo captures exactly who Carhartt is at this moment. Introduced in 1889, it places an image of a train car next to an image of a heart. Car plus heart, Carhartt. The logo does not need to explain itself. By the early 1900s, Carhartt has established more than 17 plants and 3 mills across the United States, Canada, and Europe. The internal motto shifts. Honest value for an honest dollar remains the customer-facing promise. Inside the company, the new phrase is, from the mill to millions. Then the United States enters World War I. In 1917, the United States government needs to clothe an army. Carhartt does not wait to be asked twice. The company offers 7 of its manufacturing facilities to the federal government for the production of military uniforms. A brand that began making overalls for railroad workers is now supplying the United States Army. The war ends, the expansion continues. In 1925, Carhartt opens a plant in Paris, France, and establishes an office and warehouse in New York City. A subsidiary called Hamilton Carhartt Jr. is created, with operations in Los Angeles and Philadelphia, focused on workwear for younger workers. A third cotton mill comes online in Alabama. At its peak in the mid-1920s, Carhartt is one of the largest workwear manufacturers on Earth. Then the world falls apart. In October 1929, the US stock market collapses. The Great Depression begins. Every business in America feels it. Carhartt feels it immediately. The international plants go first. Then the domestic facilities begin to close. By 1930, the entire Carhartt operation, which once spanned 17 plants across 3 continents, has shrunk to exactly 3 plants: Detroit, Atlanta, and Dallas. The company nearly does not survive. Hamilton Carhartt, now in his mid-70s, works alongside his son Wiley to find a way through. The strategy they land on is called the Back to the Land campaign. The logic is simple. Industrial cities are devastated, but rural America still has working people who need durable clothing. Carhartt pivots hard toward farmers and ranch workers. The pivot requires a new facility. In 1932, with the assistance of the citizens of Irvine, Kentucky, a new Carhartt plant is completed. The cost is just over $35,000. The facility opens with 20 employees. It is a fraction of what Carhartt once was, but it is a foundation. Wiley Carhartt uses this period to expand the product line beyond overalls. In the early 1930s, he introduces Carhartt's first outdoor wear products, the Super Ducks and the Super Fab hunting lines. For the first time, Carhartt is making clothing for people who are not at work. They are hunting. They are fishing. They are outdoors. The brand has quietly begun to move beyond its original customer. This is an outdoor moment for the company. Hamilton Carhartt does not live to see what the company becomes next. On May 10, 1937, Hamilton and his wife Annette are involved in a fatal automobile accident in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. Annette Carhartt dies the same day. Hamilton Carhartt dies 2 days later, on May 12, 1937. He is 82 years old. Wiley Carhartt becomes president of the company. Wiley does not change the mission. He does not rebrand. He does not chase new markets or redesign the product. He keeps building exactly what his father built: clothing for people doing hard work in difficult conditions. The company continues to grow steadily through the late 1930s. Then the United States enters World War II. For the second time in 25 years, the federal government calls on Carhartt. The brand responds the same way it did in 1917. During World War II, Carhartt produces coveralls for soldiers and support personnel. It manufactures jungle suits specifically for Marines serving in the Pacific. It produces workwear for women entering the American workforce for the first time in large numbers, filling factory jobs vacated by men sent overseas. 2 world wars, 2 calls to service, 2 deliveries. Wiley Carhartt leads the company through the war and into the post-war period. In 1959, he handed leadership to his son-in-law, Robert Valladay, who was married to Wiley's daughter, Gretchen. Valladay represented the 3rd generation of family leadership. He inherited a company With a strong manufacturing base in Kentucky and Tennessee, a loyal customer base in rural and industrial America, and a brand identity built entirely on one promise: the clothing will not fail you. In 1998, Robert Valladay's son, Mark Valladay, became president. Mark was Hamilton Carhartt's great-grandson, the fourth generation. The brand was now 109 years old and still entirely family-owned. Under Mark Valladay's leadership, Carhartt began to modernize. The company launched Carhartt-owned retail stores. It built a global e-commerce operation. It introduced a full women's line of products. It developed new fabric technologies, Quick Duck, Rain Defender, and Carhartt Force, that extended the brand's workwear performance into new environments. The numbers reflected what was happening. In 1990, Carhartt recorded total sales of $92 million. By 1992, the company was selling more than 2 million jackets every single year. By 2013, annual sales reached $600 million. That growth from $92 million to $600 million across 23 years required an explanation. Construction workers did not suddenly need 7 times more jackets. Something else was driving the numbers. A customer that Carhartt never designed for, never marketed to, and never anticipated had discovered the product. That customer was about to change everything. New York City, early 1990s. Winter in Manhattan ran from November through March, and on the street corners of Brooklyn, the Bronx and Harlem, the temperature regularly dropped below freezing. The people who stood outside in that cold needed clothing that actually worked. They were not shopping at department stores. They were buying what held up. Carhartt jackets held up. The brand's thick duck canvas blocked wind. The oversized cut allowed for layering. The deep pockets were functional in a way that fashion brands never prioritized. New York City's street-level hustlers adopted the Carhartt jacket for purely practical reasons. It was warm, it was roomy, and it did not fall apart. No marketing campaign put it there. No celebrity deal placed it on those corners. The streets found the product on their own terms. The adoption moved fast. In any tight-knit urban community, what influential people wear becomes what everyone wants to wear. Kids watching the corners in 1991 and 1992 saw Carhartt. They started wearing Carhartt. The rappers who grew up in those same neighborhoods and rapped about that same life wore it too, because it was already part of the world they were describing. By 1992, the shift is documented. Carhartt's street credibility is no longer informal or accidental. Rappers, graffiti writers, and corner boys across New York and Los Angeles have adopted the brand specifically for its durability and its utilitarian look. The regional split is precise. A 1992 New York Times article captures it directly. In New York, hip-hop fans wear Carhartt in mustard brown and hunter green, paired with baggy corduroy pants tucked into Timberland boots. In Los Angeles, the look is darker, with navy and black Carhartt jackets worn over shirts buttoned to the neck. Same brand, 2 completely different aesthetics. Both coasts claim it simultaneously. The artists who wear it are not minor figures. Tupac Shakur is photographed in a brown Carhartt jacket, and that image becomes one of the defining visual documents of the 1990s in rap. A look so specific and so repeated that it becomes permanently attached to his name. Members of Wu-Tang Clan wear Carhartt gear consistently throughout the decade, reinforcing the brand's grip on East Coast hip-hop. Nas wears it, Eazy-E wears it, Naughty by Nature wears it, Gang Starr wears it. These are not peripheral figures borrowing a trend. These are the architects of the genre, and Carhartt is part of their uniform. Carhartt does nothing to engineer any of this. The company is still run out of Dearborn, Michigan. Its marketing is still aimed at construction workers, farmers and ranchers. The brand has not changed its product, adjusted its advertising, or acknowledged what is happening on the streets of New York and Los Angeles. The streets do not need acknowledgement. They move without permission. then a record label accelerates everything. Tommy Boy Records was founded in New York City in 1981 by Tom Silverman. By the late 1980s, Tommy Boy is one of the most influential independent hip-hop labels in the country, home to artists including Naughty by Nature, De La Soul, Queen Latifah, and House of Pain. Silverman understands early that hip-hop is not just music, it is a culture with its own visual language, and that visual language moves product. In the late 1980s, Tommy Boy produces a run of Carhartt jackets, embroidered with the Tommy Boy logo on the front and back. The jackets also carry the logo of a then unknown streetwear label called Stussy. Tommy Boy distributes these jackets to tastemakers and influencers inside the music industry. The move creates what does not yet have a name, a streetwear brand collaboration. The concept of two brands combining on a single garment for cultural impact does not formally exist in 1989. Tommy Boy and Carhartt do it anyway. House of Pain wears the Tommy Boy Carhartt jackets in the music video for their 1992 single Jump Around. The song reaches number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Millions of people watch the video. They see the jacket. The association between Carhartt and hip-hop culture locks in at a mainstream level for the first time. Carhartt, the 100-year-old workwear company in Dearborn, Michigan, is now a hip-hop brand. It has not spent a single dollar to make that happen. While all of this is unfolding in America, something separate begins in Europe. In 1989, a Swiss designer named Edwin Feyer is running a small import agency called All American Concept. The agency brings distinctly American products to the European market. Feyer and his wife Salome are fashion designers who specialize in denim. Both visited the United States in 1989, the centenary year of Carhartt's founding, where they encountered the brand and began importing original Carhartt workwear to sell through All American Concept. The product sells immediately. European consumers in the early 1990s are drawn to American workwear for many of the same reasons American street culture is drawn to it. The quality is real, the aesthetic is unforced, and the history behind every garment is visible in its construction. In 1994, Edwin Feyer formalizes the operation. He establishes Work in Progress, Textile Handles GmbH, as the exclusive distribution network for Carhartt in Europe. The entity's name is shortened to YP. In the same year, Carhartt grants WIP the license to create its own clothing lines based on original Carhartt designs. Carhartt WIP is not the same as Carhartt. The distinction matters. Carhartt WIP takes the silhouettes, materials, and construction logic of the original American workwear and adjusts them for a different consumer, one who is not going to a construction site but is navigating a city, a skate park, or a music venue. The fits are slimmer, the colorways are broader, the price points are higher. In 1996, WIP acquired the license to manufacture Carhartt products outside of the United States. The first WIP manufactured collection was released in 1997. In 1997, the first Carhartt WIP retail store opened on Neal Street in London. It became a physical headquarters for a subculture that had been building quietly for 8 years. Feyer's strategy for WIP was deliberate and counterintuitive. The brand did not run mass advertising campaigns. Instead, it identified the subcultures that had already adopted Carhartt organically: skateboarders, graffiti artists, hip-hop fans, BMX riders, and it supported them directly with clothing and funding. No billboards, no television spots, sponsorships and community investment instead. The strategy produced cult status without chasing it. In 1995, the French film La Haine was released. Directed by Mathieu Kassovitz, the film follows 3 young men from the housing projects outside Paris over the course of 24 hours. The characters wear Carhartt WIP throughout the film. La Haine won the Best Director award at the 1995 Cannes Film Festival, and it became one of the most discussed European films of the decade. Carhartt WIP was on screen throughout. In 2000, WIP formalized its connection to music by founding Combination Records. The label was established by Edwin Faye alongside Oliver Drews and Philip Myberg. Combination Records operated as an open platform for new electronic music with direct ties to the techno scenes in Detroit and Berlin. A brand born from railroad overalls in 1889 now operated a record label in Europe in 2000. The collaborations that followed across the next 2 decades spanned the full range of fashion and culture. WIP worked with APC, Comme des Garçons Vêtements, Junior Watanabe, a bathing ape, and Polar Skate Company. Each collaboration introduced Carhartt to a new audience while keeping the original product integrity intact. In 2011, Carhartt WIP opened its first American store in the Soho neighborhood of New York City. The brand that started by importing Carhartt to Europe in 1989 has now brought a version of that brand back to the country, where it was born, and placed it in one of the most fashion-forward retail corridors in the world. The next generation of rap adopts it just as naturally as the first. ASAP Rocky incorporates vintage Carhartt pieces into high-fashion looks throughout the early 2010s, introducing the brand to an audience that was not yet born when Tupac wore it in the 1990s. Travis Scott wears Carhartt jackets and beanies in music videos and public appearances throughout the 2010s and into the 2020s. In 2018, Carhartt partnered with Nike. The collaboration produced new versions of the Air Force One, the Air Max, and the Vandal. Every pair sold out. Resale prices climbed immediately. In 2023, Carhartt WIP announced a collaboration with Marni, the Milan-based luxury fashion house founded in 1994. A Carhartt and Marni jacket retails at $850. In 2013, Linda Hubbard became president of Carhartt, the first person outside the Carhartt family to hold that position in the company's 124-year history. She became chief executive officer in 2024. Mark Valade, Hamilton's great-grandson, remains executive chairman. In December 2022, Carhartt announced a Dearborn expansion, 125 new jobs, and $4.7 million in investment, driven by demand the company could not currently meet. In 2019, Carhartt generated just over $1 billion in revenue. Hamilton Carhartt started with 2 sewing machines, 5 workers, and 1 product designed for the men building America's railroads. The product never changed. The world changed around it. If this story earned it, hit like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoyed it.